Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Have you ever thought about what made Bellatrix Lestrange so insanely devoted and terrifying? What if her madness had a logical explanation, rooted in deep psychological wounds? In today's video, you will find out the shocking truth behind her descent into darkness. The world of Harry Potter is filled with unforgettable characters. Some are noble heroes, others complex and layered, and then there are those who leave a lasting impression as villains. Bellatrix Lestrange was not just another Death Eater. She was Voldemort's most fanatical follower, a witch whose very presence radiated chaos. Played brilliantly by Helena Bonham Carter in the films, Bellatrix was more than just a servant of the Dark Lord. She was a force of destruction, a zealot who sometimes even outmatched Voldemort himself in her ruthlessness. But why was she like that? What made her so erratic, so violent, so completely unhinged? Let's dive into her past and uncover the truth. Born into the prestigious House of Black, Bellatrix was raised with a deep sense of superiority. Her family saw themselves as pure-blood aristocracy, looking down on Muggle-borns and even other wizards who didn't share their beliefs. From childhood, she was taught that power and bloodline mattered above all else. At Hogwarts, she was sorted into Slytherin, where she mingled with future Death Eaters like Lucius Malfoy. But while others hesitated, Bellatrix embraced Voldemort's ideology without question. She didn't just follow him, she worshipped him. Her loyalty knew no limits. She tortured Neville Longbottom's parents into insanity, never betrayed Voldemort even in Azkaban, and returned to his side the moment she escaped. Until her final breath in the Battle of Hogwarts, she remained his most dangerous enforcer. But what truly made her this way? Some believe it was Azkaban. Years spent in the wizarding prison surrounded by Dementors could have shattered what little sanity she had left. The constant exposure to despair and darkness might have turned her into something even more monstrous than before. Others point to unrequited love. Yes, Bellatrix was obsessed with Voldemort, not just as a leader but as a man. While she was married to another Death Eater, it was Voldemort she truly loved. But he was incapable of love, and her desperate need to prove herself to him only drove her deeper into madness. She committed atrocities, hoping to earn his approval, but all she ever received was cold indifference. There's even a controversial theory that Bellatrix bore Voldemort's child Delphi, as introduced in The Cursed Child. But whether or not that's canon remains up for debate. One thing is certain: Bellatrix Lestrange was not just a villain. She was a tragic figure consumed by devotion, madness, and a desperate need for validation. And that perhaps is what makes her one of the most chilling characters in the Harry Potter universe. Bellatrix Lestrange was a living embodiment of chaos, and her madness was not as simple as it seemed. To truly understand her, we need to dig deeper into her psyche, her upbringing, and the events that shaped her into Voldemort's most unhinged follower. Her obsession with blood purity wasn't just a family tradition, it was her entire identity. The House of Black prided itself on its unbroken magical lineage, considering anyone with Muggle blood beneath them. Bellatrix wasn't just raised with these beliefs, she absorbed them completely. Unlike her cousin Sirius, who rebelled against his family, or even her sister Andromeda, who dared to marry a Muggle-born, Bellatrix never questioned the ideology. To her, it wasn't just an opinion, it was the truth. At Hogwarts, she wasn't just an ambitious Slytherin, she was a predator. While others studied magic to expand their knowledge, Bellatrix craved power. She enjoyed watching people squirm, thrived on fear, and found a strange pleasure in dominance. It was no surprise that when she crossed paths with Tom Riddle, she was drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Voldemort wasn't just a leader, he was a god in her eyes. He represented everything she believed in: purity, strength, and absolute control. But there was something more. Unlike others who followed him out of fear or opportunity, Bellatrix followed him out of love, not the gentle, selfless kind, but the obsessive, all-consuming kind that burns everything in its path. She didn't just admire him, she worshipped him. When Voldemort marked his followers with the dark mark, it was a symbol of devotion. But for Bellatrix, it was something more. It was proof that she belonged to him. She didn't just carry out his orders, she relished them. While other Death Eaters hesitated or showed restraint, Bellatrix executed Voldemort's will with terrifying enthusiasm. She tortured, she killed, she laughed as she did it. One of her most notorious crimes was the attack on Frank and Alice Longbottom. Unlike many Death Eaters who feared the consequences of their actions, Bellatrix felt invincible. She didn't just use the Cruciatus curse on them, she pushed it beyond its limits, reducing them to empty shells. And when she was finally captured, standing trial before the Wizengamot, she never begged for mercy. She never repented. She looked her captors in the eyes and promised that the Dark Lord would return. And when he did, they would pay. Azkaban should have broken her. It broke nearly everyone else. But Bellatrix wasn't like other prisoners. While most withered away in the presence of Dementors, losing their minds to despair, she embraced the darkness. She held on to Voldemort's image, whispering his name in the dead of night like a prayer. She never doubted his return, and when the time came, she walked out of Azkaban with her head held high, ready to serve him again. Her return to Voldemort wasn't just about loyalty, it was about proving herself. She saw herself as his most devoted follower, but his years without her had allowed others to take her place. She resented that. She resented Snape, whom she never trusted. She resented anyone who had been at Voldemort's side while she had been locked away. She needed to remind him who she was, and she did. Bellatrix was responsible for some of the most brutal acts in the Second Wizarding War. She killed, tortured, and terrorized with an almost theatrical flair. It wasn't enough to defeat her enemies. She wanted to humiliate them, to make them feel powerless before she ended their lives. But underneath all the madness there was desperation. Voldemort never showed her the affection she craved. He valued her skill, relied on her ruthlessness, but he never returned her devotion. And the more he ignored her, the more reckless she became. She wanted to prove herself over and over again, committing atrocities in his name, hoping for a flicker of recognition. Even her final moments were a reflection of that desperation. In the Battle of Hogwarts, she fought with the same wild energy that had defined her entire life. But when she faced Molly Weasley, something shifted. Bellatrix wasn't just dueling, she was playing with her prey, laughing, taunting, believing herself untouchable. But for the first time, she underestimated her opponent. Molly wasn't just another Order member, she was a mother who had just lost a son. And that gave her a power that Bellatrix had never faced before. The moment the killing curse struck her, there was no dramatic farewell, no final words to Voldemort, just shock. And then she was gone. Bellatrix Lestrange wasn't just a villain, she was a cautionary tale, a woman consumed by ideology, by obsession, by a love that was